Alright, this is the 1-3 notes. It's over distance and midpoint. So we'll go ahead and start with the definition of distance. Distance is just the length of the line segment with those points as its endpoints. So first we're going to start with the distance formula on a number line. So if you're given the number line, it's the absolute value of x2 minus x1. So here's an example. Find the distance from A to B. So I'm going to put here, my distance is equal to the absolute value. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you pick, A or B. I'll start with A. A is located here at -4. Minus B is located here at 2. Absolute value. So that's the absolute value. -4 minus 2 gives you -6. Absolute value of -6 is just +6. So my distance from A to B is just 6. Distance formula on a coordinate grid. So here you can't just have it on number line where you count. Instead, you have to use this distance formula. You will use this distance formula a whole lot. So it says find the distance between A that's located on a coordinate grid at -2, -1, and B is located at 1, 3. First thing you want to do here is you want to label these x1, y1, x2, and y2. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my formula. So distance is equal to the square root x2 minus x1, so that would be 1 minus that -2 squared, plus y2 minus y1, so 3 minus a -1. And again, when you have that minus a negative, that becomes a positive. So that's why I'm changing all that. So what this becomes is 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 squared is 9, 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 squared is 16, 9 plus 16 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. Now, really the square root of 25 is a +5 and a -5, but when you're measuring distance, you don't ever have negative for your answer because that wouldn't make sense. If I said, hey, how many miles is it from here to Dayton, you wouldn't say, oh, it's -20 miles. That just doesn't make sense. So when you're talking about distance, you only want the positive answer. So my distance is just equal to 5. Alright, next little part. So that's it for distance. All we have left is midpoint. So that's the point on a segment, exactly halfway between the ends of the segment. So we talked about midpoint yesterday when we looked at the line ABC. B was our midpoint. So if M is the midpoint of AB, then the measure of AM is equal to MB. So we can do a quick little picture here. Here's AB. It tells us that M is the midpoint. So all that means is that this piece AM is equal to this piece MB. Okay, so midpoint formula. Find M, the midpoint of AB, if A is at 4, -1, and B is at 8, 7. So what we're going to do here is we are going to plug this into the formula. So this is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. So what we're going to have then is my midpoint. So I'm just going to put M is equal to x1 plus x2, so 4 plus 8 divided by 2. y1 plus y2, so -1 plus 7 divided by 2. That will be equal to 4 plus 8 is 12 divided by 2. -1 plus 7 is 6 divided by 2. And so that will equal 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my midpoint here would be at 6, 3. Okay, so now the second question is a little bit different. It says find B if the midpoint AB and if M is the midpoint of AB and A is at 5, -1 and M is at 2, 2. Alright, so this one's a little bit different. What I have to find now is point B. So what I know this is x1, y1, and I know this is xm, ym, and I put m's for midpoint. Okay, so to find the xm, which is just the midpoint, your x value of your midpoint, it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2. Alright, and for ym, it's just y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay, what we have to do now though is plug in what I know and solve for x2 and y2. So for this first one, for the x, what we have, I have 2 is equal to x1 was 5 plus x2 divided by 2. I'm going to focus on this one first, then we'll do the y. To get rid of the 2 in the denominator, you have to multiply both sides by 2. So if I multiply, and I'll do a different color, this by 2, then I multiply this by 2. Okay, those two cancel each other out because 2 divided by 2 is 1. Over here on the left side, 2 times 2 is 4 is equal to 5 plus x2. Subtract 5 from both sides, you get -1 is equal to x2. Alright, now for the y's. So I'll change colors here because it kind of starts blending in together. Ym, so again that's 2, is equal to y1 plus y2. So y1 is negative 1. I have to solve for the y value on that second point, divided by 2. Again, over here you multiply top and bottom by 2 because you want to get rid of that 2 in the denominator. 2 times 2 is 4, so you have 4 is equal to negative 1 plus y2. Add 1 to both sides. 4 plus 1 is 5 is equal to y2. Okay, so the way that you write your final answer is B would be at negative 1 comma 5. And that's the long way, plugging everything into a formula. I'm going to show you now the easy way, kind of a shortcut way. And then we are done. It says find B if M is the midpoint of AB. A is at 5, negative 1. M is at 2, 2. So first I'm going to draw my picture here. Okay, it tells me M is the midpoint of AB. Okay, so it's not quite in the center, but you get the idea. A is at this point 5, negative 1, and M is at this point 2, 2. Alright, so here's the cool trick. So first you have to determine what's the difference between my 5 and 2. Well, you subtract 3. So from 2 to this point B, I have to subtract 3. Well, what's 2 minus 3? Negative 1. Boom, you're done. Now I got to figure out about my y values. Okay, so from negative 1 to positive 2, you have to add 3. So going from 2 to this point over here, I have to add 3. Well, what's 2 plus 3? 5. Boom, there's your answer. The exact same thing we got doing the long way. And yeah, that's it for those notes.